give this a minute to see if it loads up a little bit. There's one. Yeah, there's two. That's good enough for me. We'll go ahead and get started. I just wait just to make sure that the stream is uploading because several times, as some of you know, I've started talking and it wasn't actually going live on YouTube. So then I do several minutes and then realize that and have to delete that and then start all over again. I'm 5 by 5. Great, great. I got a little liquid courage here. This is bourbon, which is something I don't usually drink, but I needed something different tonight. The wind's blowing pretty hard. You'll probably hear it in the background, and it's kind of cold. So this is a good way to warm up. So at any rate, and for those of you who say, wow, you're all red, remember my studio light here is of the old type, and my camera will, or my phone does not have a white balance in it, so the colors are a little bit off, especially when you have all this blue in the background. Okay, so no smart talk about my having an appearance of being red. Okay, because it's not this. As a matter of fact, I think I've had 2 sips of this all so far. Okay, well, I got pretty disturbed this afternoon. You're probably wondering why I labeled this from, and you have to be careful because of copyright situations, but in the movie with Christian Bale and Liam Neeson back in 2005, Batman Begins, you might remember that Liam Neeson was the villain. He pretended to be a good guy, but he was really about destroying Gotham City because of its evil, which was kind of an interesting side note as to why they were doing all this terrible stuff to people like they deserved it. Anyway, his name was in the movie was Henry Dukeel or Dukid or something like that. But his real persona was Raz Ghul, of course, the guy who goes around and destroys different parts of civilizations because of their evil, right? And Batman saves Gotham. Maybe he shouldn't have, you know. And there's a line in the movie. What's happening is right towards the end there. There's this big fight between Batman and Ra's Ghul on the train. It's actually the mono or not the monorail, but the light rail that's raised above the city. If you've ever been to Chicago, for instance, that's there. But at any rate, they're having this big fight, and finally, Batman prevails, and Ra's Ghul knows he's defeated, and Batman says to him, because they're having this little conversation about what's going to happen next, and Batman says, I don't have to save you. Or no, he says, yeah, I don't have to save you. Dang it, I still got it wrong. It's in the title. I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you. Let me say that again. Like I said, this just came to me, I mean, literally just 5 minutes ago. This quote from the movie, and it fits what I'm going to be talking about here. So again, they're having this fight on the rail on the train, and it's raised above the ground, and it's headed to a crash. If you remember the movie, and Batman and Ra's Ghul, Liam Neeson, are arguing and finally talking in a somewhat civil tone, and Batman says to Ra's Ghul, I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to save you either. I'll drink to that. Hear the wind? So, what's this all about? Well, I think I've told you several times over the last year or so that when Biden got into office, I noticed that a lot of the primarily retired military officers finally were able to come out and start hammering Biden. And my question to them was why they didn't do it to Trump. And at least one of them got upset at me and didn't think that that was appropriate, that I should ask them that question, and called me a rather well, it was a pejorative that really wasn't fitting. Let's just put it that way. None of the others did. It was only one that did, and I was really surprised that he was the one that did it. My concern is for the country, not for the damn president, and not for sides where the country, where the people of this nation and the world for that matter are in danger. My concern is with the Constitution, and I don't play politics. And maybe that's stupid of me, but that's just the way I am. Politics isn't the name of the game. What you see is what you get with me, and I would hope that most officers are that way as well. But I found out, of course, in my career that that's not the case. Well, the same thing happens in police departments, sheriff's office, law enforcement agencies, federal, state, local, county, whatever. You see the same kinds of things going on. Well, anyway, so there was a retired officer today that I've been in contact with, not directly, but on Twitter. Like a lot of them, they don't want to have direct contact with me. My background's a little too risque for most of them. They don't want to go that far, but we've communicated a little bit on Twitter, and basically today this particular retired officer, military officer, came out and called the DoD leadership and the SecDef, the Secretary of Defense, incompetent. And I went, yay, yay, yeah. I mean, now when you're retired, you're still subject to the UCMJ, and you can get in trouble for criticizing your leadership the way they did Lieutenant Colonel Scheller, if you'll remember him, when he came out against the situation with the Afghan war and especially the withdrawal. And I think they finally court-martialed him. We haven't heard from him, at least I haven't since then. But the point is that even in a retired status, you're subject to the UCMJ, and so you're not supposed to criticize the command, chain of command, and the National Command Authority, which includes the President of the United States. I do it all the time because I'm not officially retired from the military, as some of you, if not all of you, should know that. I've explained that in the past, what happened, how my career was interrupted because of my outspokenness and my refusal to partake in things that I thought were evil. I mean, I still did it unknowingly a few times, but I spoke up about it all the same. So I saw this by this retired military officer today, and I was really happy that he was speaking out. That took some courage, and I appreciate that very, very much. Because if we don't speak out, even at the peril of our own lives, what's our soul going to be worth? Much less the country, right? Much less our neighbors and our loved ones. So that was an absolutely necessary step, and I appreciated seeing that. And that was kind of working on me. And then I saw this thing from Canada where the police officers are there in a mall telling people that because they don't have vaccine passports and aren't wearing their masks that they have to leave. Earlier in the day, apparently a lady pushing a stroller was forced out of the mall by the security, and then she brought friends back with all these people that didn't have vaccine passports. I probably shouldn't say that on here, so I'll talk a little more subtly if you don't mind. And weren't wearing the things here, right? So the police come in and start harassing these people, threatening them with $4,000 fines and all this stuff. And the people are saying to the police, I want to see your badge number, which, by the way, you're required to give. A police officer's required to identify themselves, both by name and badge number. Okay, that's just the way it works. And they wouldn't do it. So they're violating the law, and it was okay for them, right? And the people stood their ground, and I was really happy to see that. Now, I ran into a similar situation. Of course, you know, I was a police officer for a while, not just a military officer. And I only have respect for police officers that do their job according to the Constitution and according to their oath and really serving the public. If they weren't doing that, they had a problem with me, okay? And I think that the friends that I knew on the department that I was on, and also the way I handled myself in the military police corps, that would be my my peers would agree with me on that. Hi, Ms. Cat. Nice to see you. So I've never been one to bend to the system if it went against my oath. Again, I might do it by accident or because I was tricked into it, but not on purpose, not in any way, shape, or form. Well, anyway, so at Bundy Ranch, for instance, at one point I went to see the agent, the special agent in charge, Daniel Love, with another individual, which I won't name here, a journalist, self-appointed. Uh, anyway, and I got up there, and of course I knew who Daniel Love was, and they knew who I was, but the officers wouldn't identify with their name or their badge number, and I told them that they couldn't do that. And I knew that they couldn't do that. And then, of course, there were some other things that I noticed. For instance, they weren't speaking in English. And I've talked about not all of them. Some of them were obviously from some other countries. And I won't get into that here. But at any rate, the point is that I've seen that kind of thing before. And when they won't tell you their badge number or their name, it's not just because they're trying to protect their safety and security. It's because they're up to no good. All right. So, at any rate, as I'm thinking about all this, and I saw this happen in Canada, and then of course we've seen that here in the States. We see it in New Zealand, we see it in Australia, we see it in Germany, where the police are doing these horrible things to their own people. And I'm not going to get into a philosophical discussion or a legal discussion as to why they're doing that. No, it's not fake. Those things are really happening. So I'm looking at that and I'm saying, you know what? I remember this quote from the Batman movie. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to save you either. And this is what I'm going to tell everybody, and I'm going on record. I've already said here on YouTube and on Twitter with some of the communications I've had and I've seen other retired military officers even saying this now, that they are not encouraging family members or acquaintances or friends to join this miserable, disgusting, anti-constitutional military DOD that's more concerned with being modern in the way they look at social programs. I will not ever, and I've said that before, encourage anyone to go in the military. Not at all. Not with what we've done around the world for the last 60 years under the pretense of protecting our liberty, which is not what we were doing at all. We were building an empire. Hi, Felicia. I was stumbling over it when I first started because I just thought about doing this literally just a few minutes prior to me going live. So I didn't have the quote quite in my mind, but it is, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. So, at any rate, I don't encourage people to go in the military because we do wicked, evil things around the world. And right now, of course, the military has been used to kind of help push out this entire thing that we're seeing, those things. And we're seeing different states go more and more draconian all the time. And I might get thrown off for some of this, but I'm going to do it anyway. If I do get thrown off, I'll be over on Odyssey and on Gab, okay? Until Twitter throws me off too. But at any rate, so speaking from my experience, from the things I saw both in the military and as a police officer, I can say what I'm saying now with complete confidence and justification. And damn anybody who says otherwise. I have friends that are cops right now, active cops. And I'll say it to them. If you violate your oath and under some pretense of law or emergency, you step on the rights of the people, you are my enemy. I'm not going to kill you. But when you get into a scrap on the street or in a shootout on the road, I don't have to save you either. There was a situation that came up several years ago in Texas, I believe is where it happened. A trooper, a state trooper, state police officers, whatever they call them down there, state police, had pulled over somebody on the road, and a gunfight ensued. And there was a rancher or a farmer or somebody local that was going down the road. And of course, down there at this point in time, they would carry their rifles, in the racks in the back of the truck, right? We used to go to school like that in my day. But this guy saw this gunfight going on between the police officer and the criminal. And he got his rifle out and he shot the criminal to protect the police officer. Now that's courageous. That's the right thing to do under most circumstances, but not anymore. These police officers have turned on you, sheriffs, military police officers have turned on you when rioters were burning down your homes and your businesses, threatening your lives, even taking your lives. They stood down under the orders of some other individual, whether it was the chief of police, the mayor, or whatever. They stood down and violated their oath because their pensions and their money meant more to them than doing the right thing. And then when all of these draconian measures came out, they were out there arresting mothers on playgrounds for not having or whatever, right? And then this situation in the mall. So in other words, they're not there to protect you. So ladies and gentlemen, if you live in a jurisdiction like California just now, Newsom just said that starting Wednesday, that's going to be a mandate across the whole state. Now, there have been some local jurisdictions that have said they're not going to enforce that. But regardless, if you're in a jurisdiction, you got to make sure you're in a jurisdiction that is going along with these draconian measures before you do what I'm going to tell you to do. If you're in a jurisdiction that's going along with this suppression of your liberties, and you see a police officer or a military member, whatever, in a serious altercation, be it with a criminal or with somebody who's just trying to resist what they're doing to them, you don't have to kill those police officers. You don't have to kill the military members. You just don't have to save them. You just walk away. See, in the past, the police were able to do what they did because they had the support of the community. Well, they're at odds with the community now under a pretense of an emergency, which is not even authorized in the Constitution or in any moral or righteous code. So if these police officers and military are not willing to help you to live with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then damn them to hell. When they're out there, and I'm sorry, I don't want the criminals to get away, but the police and the military are acting in a criminal manner as well. So it's two evils fighting each other. Let them be. You see what's going on in both New York and in LA and probably other places in the country where they smash and grab in these stores and they may arrest them, but there's no bail, right? So they're out on the street right away. And a lot of the police, for instance, I've seen interviews with police, even police commissioners, et cetera, that said, don't come to LA, if you're planning on coming down here for a vacation or something, don't do it. We can't protect you. So there are good cops, but what I'm saying is this. If they're not willing to go arrest the mayor and the governor for violating your rights, I'm sorry, but they are not for you, even if they want to stand back and not enforce whatever the draconian measures are, which LA they do, not the sheriff's department, but the police department. So what I'm saying is here, what the advice that I'm giving you is twofold. If you have a family member or a friend that's thinking about going in the military, talk them out of it. Because they're being turned on our own people, not just people overseas, which was unjust anyway. And if you know police officers, tell them to find another, and they live in one of these draconian situations, and they're willing to keep their job, you got to tell them to get another job, or if you see them in an altercation, you're not going to assist them as what a good American would do to help a police officer in distress. Not anymore. You don't owe it to them. They are setting you and your family up to be harmed, have your property stolen, and possibly even imprisoned unjustly or murdered, or all of the above. So you have no responsibility to assist any officer or military member who is in an altercation. You just let it be. You don't have to make any threats to these people. A lot of us are very angry at what they're doing, going along with, talking about the police and the military. But you talk about taking action against them, and then they come after you. So that's why I'm saying, never tell them you're going to kill them or hurt them, but tell them that you're not going to save them either. And that's justice. Absolute justice. And that's my spiel for the evening. And again, I can say that because I was there. I had my friend, I've talked about him several times. I was hoping to get him on a live stream one day and have him verify a lot of my history, especially what I did in the police department and the military, which he was quite aware of. But he decided not to because he would get some retribution, and I understand that. I understand that. And he had some other personal things going on at the time that he was trying to protect so that he could get those taken care of, and I understand that. But he brought up to me here just the other day, he wrote me out of the blue and he said, he sent me a picture of the police department just before I got there. It was a group picture of all the officers. And it was just days before I was hired on. So I wasn't in the picture, but I got to see everybody else in the picture that I worked with there. And it was really nice. And he sent, along with the picture, he said, I wish you could have stayed on. You were a hell of a cop. Meaning a good one, not a bad one. And, we sent some text messages back and forth. And then he said, I remember, this is no joke. He says, that picture was taken when we were in the old building. And I said, yeah, I know, I recognize that. Because then they moved to a new building while I was there. But at any rate, and so he said, yeah, it's that building down where the apartments where you had that guy who had the 30-30 trained on a group of people, and he was going to shoot him, and you walked up to him and he put the 30-30 to your chest and you talked him out of shooting you. I said, yeah, that's right. I remember that. I disarmed him with a nightstick is what I did. And I could tell you why I did that. Some people say, why didn't you just shoot him to protect yourself? Well, I use some, and I'm not saying it's a good idea in most situations, but this one I was pretty sure that there was another problem going on, and I didn't want to shoot him. I didn't want to, and I really honestly didn't think he'd shoot me. My friend was there with his 357 trained on the guy, so I kind of felt a little on the safe side anyway, but that's a true story. That actually happened. And it happened more than once. I mean, I had that situation happen, let's see, that time, then over in the other apartments, and at a guy in the tree, and the guy who has shot his brothers. Anyway, it happened several times. My point is that I'm well qualified to tell you what I'm telling you now. Loyalty goes both ways, which is what was my problem with Trump. He demands loyalty. Even today, he's talking about he demands loyalty. Did you see that? He demands loyalty, even today, but he never gives it. He had all those accolades for Assange and would rather, and I know he's under political pressure, but this is ridiculous. I can't take the call right now. Sorry about that, all right? Can't take it. I'll have to call you back. So, he demands all this loyalty. Assange came out and gave all the good information. And then look where Assange is today. And David Knight made a big point of that today, that Even Alex Jones was out there saying that he had information that in the last few minutes of Trump's presidency, he was going to pardon Assange. Well, of course, that didn't happen. Instead, he pardoned real criminals and people that had done his family favors. Corruption. And people want to trust this guy again? This guy who pushed the FDA and said that he would fire the FDA chief if he didn't approve the you know what's? And people try to say, well, he didn't really know when he also signed the EO in September of that same of 2019. Yeah, he wants loyalty, but he won't give any back. So I'm saying the cops want loyalty from you, but they don't want to give any back to you. The military doesn't want to give any back to you. So here's our mantra. Well, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you either. I don't care if he's blackmailed by Mossad or not. Doesn't make any difference. That's cowardice. He's talking about millions of lives, maybe billions. In the balance? No, that's not a trade-off that's justified morally or legally. All right. That's all I got for you. I just thought I'd mention that. Again, if you're in a jurisdiction that enforces these draconian measures and you see a cop under some kind of duress from a suspect or in any kind of altercation, just say, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to kill you, the statement from Batman, but I don't have to save you either. You're on your own. Until you guys get on the right side of this, you're not going to get any help from us. All right? Oh, I'm sure it's probably not just your internet. It's probably a lot of things. Okay, I'm going to call that person back that just tried to get a hold of me. Probably doesn't like what I'm saying. But in this matter, I'm talking about a movie. Batman Begins. Right? I'm talking about a movie. Yeah, right to try, of course, would also have to do with all these other therapeutics that should be used and that they're denying. And yet, right to try is law. So, how is that happening? Because it's an evil cabal that's pushing this entire thing. All right, I'm going to call that individual back in case you're watching. I'm going to call you now. Y'all have a good night. Just thought I'd tell you that. Remember, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to kill you. Police, military, but I don't have to save you either. I hear for now.